A brutal murder.
There's blood on his arms, blood on his face.
Leaves a family heartbroken.
It felt like a bad dream. Just wanted to wake up.
Detectives turn to surveillance footage for help.
Cameras don't lie.
It's a race against time.
I knew that their intentions were to kill me.
This is an emergency.
To catch a killer.
They're on a crime spree. This is not going to end well.
Hello, anybody here?
On July 24th, 2013, we received a 911 call. This clerk had been shot at the Convenience Plus Mart on East Livingston Avenue.
Detective Sineff and Landis of the Columbus Division of Police catch the case.
As we walked up and looked behind the counter, we seen a male. He was definitely deceased.
He's a familiar face.
The victim was Imran Ashgar. We knew he was married, living in Columbus.
34-year-old Imran lived near the store with his wife of 7 years, Christine. A popular figure in the community, officers often stopped by for coffee.
Several officers had frequented the store and knew Mr. Ashgar very well. He's a good guy. He never did nothing to anyone.
But he's been shot twice, point blank, in the head.
Had blood on his arms, blood on his face, swollen left eye with what appeared to be a bullet wound just below his left eye.
Investigators' first theory is robbery, but there's a problem.
The cash was still in the cash register. What they want first. It seemed kind of odd that there was nothing taken.
Detectives also find the store's gun under the counter.
It made us believe that he had no idea the attack was coming, and therefore could not defend himself. Lots of scenarios run through your head. If robbery was the motivation, why did they not get what they were there to get? Have an argument with somebody in the neighborhood? Somebody in the neighborhood out to get him? Was it a family member out to get him?
As police process the crime scene, news of the killing ripples through the neighborhood. Christine's waiting for Imran to come home when the phone rings.
I was thinking maybe it'd be Imran. Imran loved his job as a cashier. His dream was always to open his own store because he wanted to have family. Hello? One of his friends was like, hey, we didn't want to tell you this, but your husband was just shot.
That's not funny.
It was kind of a scary street. He's came home several times thinking about getting a different job because it was not safe at all. I was very afraid for his safety. I called my husband's phone. I was hoping and praying it was a prank. My heart was racing. Oh, pick up.
But there's no answer.
Not being able to get a hold of him, it just felt like my air was being taken out of me. It was like, couldn't breathe.
Christine heads straight to the store.
I just wanted to freeze time for just a little bit. To hold on to the fact that he was maybe still alive. It just felt like a nightmare. Everything that was flashing before me. Me and Imran's wedding day. Just everything that we went through. The good, the bad. I just couldn't picture my life without him.
As forensics process the crime scene, detectives start their search for the shooter.
One of our first focus is to find out if we have any witnesses who can identify suspects. One of the employees of Mr. Harshaw, he was stocking the coolers when this incident occurred.
So Howard, you tell us the truth, we'll get you out of here. You've been working there about a week.
Yeah.
Sorry, so what were you doing tonight?
You putting some stuff away in the freezer.
Oh.
That's it. Somebody came in, all of a sudden they said something, and pow, and I ran around long time.
He informed us that he thought it was a .22 caliber firearm that had been discharged.
One person came in or two people? Or three people?
I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah. Alright, you just heard somebody say something, you heard a
Pow, and I'm gone.
You're gone.
Yeah.
Alright, where'd you go?
Once he heard the gunshots, he immediately ran straight back towards the stock room and then ran downstairs.
I'm scared, man.
How long did you stay downstairs, you think?
I don't know, man. Maybe 2-3 minutes, maybe 5.
He did not go out and check on anything until he heard a customer asking for service. Then went towards the front of the store. He could see that Mr. Ashgar was laying behind the counter and not moving.
Was the police already there?
No, I'm the one dialed 911.
He immediately had the customers leave the store, and I believe it was Mr. Harshaw who locked the door and called police.
So you've been the least in the neighborhood for the last 15, 20 years?
No, not really.
Okay, help me out.
I've been around, though. I've been in the neighborhood for a while. I don't know, 5 years, 3 years.
Don't make us keep asking and asking just to get damn answers.
Yes.
Answer the question.
Yes.
The reason we're asking you these questions, we want to know how long you've been in that neighborhood to see if you know these guys. And
I don't.
see if you ain't telling us the truth because you're scared to death that they're going to come hunt you down. That's what we want to know. Did you see more than you're telling us?
No.
Seemed to be genuine. You can never rule anybody out until proper information comes forward to clear each and every person involved.
2 hours into the investigation, Christine arrives at the store.
Tell me he's alive, please. Say he's alive, please.
The worst part of the job is when you have to inform somebody that their loved one will never be home again.
I'm so sorry.
It's like literally just reached in, pulled out my heart, and just smashed it. It felt like a bad dream. I just wanted to wake up. And then the reality started kicking in. I lost my best friend.
With a shooter on the loose, detectives need to know if Imran had any enemies.
Say a prayer for the victim and do your job. Did you know of any enemies that Mr. Ashgar may have had, or had he complained about any incidents taking place at the store itself?
No, nothing.
With no immediate suspect,
The homicide case goes, the less chance you have of solving it.
they could be in luck.
The store had several cameras outside as well as inside.
And they're staring directly at the cash register.
The hope is that the crime is captured on surveillance. That's your eyewitness. Cameras don't lie.
Following the shooting of 34-year-old Imran Ashgar in a convenience store in Ohio, detectives have found security cameras they hope have captured his killer. They bring up the first angle.
You always wonder, how good is this footage going to be?
There was a camera in the back that you could see a view of the entire store.
Imran can be seen top of the screen, standing at the cash register opposite the entrance.
This camera gives us a clear view of every person coming in and out of that door.
Detectives cue it to 11:06 p.m., the time of the 911 call, and watch.
have to watch every bit of frame and every second of the cameras. You can see the coolers to the right, where that Howard Harshaw was filling the coolers.
They soon realize that the camera's timestamp is off, so they have no idea when the shooting will occur. Everything appears normal. Until suddenly.
It just comes straight in from outside. Play it again. You can see the suspect with the orange shirt approach Imran with a gun out right in front of him and just walk up and basically shoot him in the face. It's hard to watch.
It's a chilling moment.
When you're watching video footage of somebody being murdered, it is sad.
To the right, a stunned Howard Harshaw can be seen seeking cover at the back of the store, just like he said. But who is the mystery attacker?
It appeared that there was nothing premeditated about this assault. There was no words discussed, there was no punches thrown, there was no demands made. It was obvious Mr. Ashgar never had a chance to reach for his firearm. It was just a straight rush and shot. And we're thinking it's personal. This Mr. Ashgar has to know this suspect. There has to be something more to it.
But the camera is too far away to ID the shooter. They need a clearer view, so they switch to a camera mounted behind the cash register, covering the entrance.
This camera view was wonderful because you can see people come in and out of the store.
They cue the footage to the time of the attack.
It's always hard to watch someone murdered on film, to see. It's never comfortable. It's never fun. This case is a little bit different from most of the cases I work on. I rarely have surveillance cameras that are of such quality that you can make out who the people are. It was this, you were watching it on TV. That's how good the camera was and how close it was.
But detectives don't recognize his face. They look at the footage for any other clues.
A male with a white t-shirt can be observed just standing in the doorway of the convenience store.
The shooter is not working alone.
You can tell from the video that these are young kids. These are teenagers. They were smiling, giggling. It was, it's disturbing to watch that these people just, they didn't take it seriously at all.
Detectives keep watching.
From this camera angle, we can see that the man exited the store.
Detectives think they fled the scene, but just a few seconds later, they unexpectedly reappear. Now joined by
Being pulled into the store by one of the men.
He walks up to Imran to see if he's still alive.
Suddenly, something grabs the detective's attention.
Stop. Punch him, the guy with the white shirt. Yeah, this camera angle, it shows clearly the non-shooter in the white t-shirt got a semi-automatic handgun. When he's talking with the shooter, he's gesturing with it, and it's a wonderful angle to see that he's also armed. We're dealing with two dangerous individuals.
They keep watching.
The male wearing the blue t-shirt walks over to the two men. It's obvious they're having some kind of discussion or words.
The individual in the white t-shirt looks like he's directing the shooter in the orange t-shirt. He appears mad, saying, "You go take care of this. You finish this. You didn't kill him. You need to finish the job, and we need to get out of here."
They play on, anxious to see what happens next.
The man with the orange t-shirt reapproaches the counter where Mr. Ashgar is behind. He takes careful aim and he fires a second shot at Mr. Ashgar.
It's a cold-blooded assassination.
You're willing to shoot someone in the face? You want to finish the job to make sure that no one can testify against you if you get caught.
When you commit that type of crime and shoot a person a second time who can never ever defend themselves, their actions were just ruthless.
This angle may also offer detectives a possible motive.
The suspect can be seen reaching into the counter area, but it's unknown what he is reaching for or what he is trying to do.
Whatever he is doing is just out of shot.
Okay, next camera.
Detectives switch to a third camera on the far end of the counter.
I've done several murders where the camera is just, 6 inches off frame for the shooting. But when you get a good camera angle like this, it's wonderful.
The angle shows an even clearer view of an innocent man's execution.
It's terribly sad every time you see it. Anyone who can come into it be locked up, and the key needs to be thrown away.
Detectives now want to know what the killer is reaching for.
After the second shot, the man with the orange t-shirt can be seen reaching around the counter area, but cannot open up the cash register.
It's clear when you see them reach the cash register that that's what they're there for. They're there for the money, and they're just not bright enough to get the cash. Where the individual reaches and makes such a small effort to get money and doesn't get it, it's just like, oh well, and kills an individual over that. It's staggering. The callousness.
After the three suspects leave the store, Howard returns and calls 911, just as he told police. He's cleared of any involvement. With no sign of a getaway vehicle, detectives need names in order to track them down.
Is this a one-time thing? Is this going to continue? Has this person already done this before and we don't know about him?
The police are in a race against time to make sure that this person doesn't kill again. First resource is to look at the police officers who work in the area. They know the players usually, and the people that run around the streets.
They're in luck. The officers identify one of the suspects straight away.
They immediately were able to identify the shooter as an individual by the name of Debonair Simmons.
He had previously broken into a house and threatened the homeowner with a knife.
Officers are immediately dispatched to his last known address, but he's not there.
They're now on the run. They're scared. They're going to do whatever they can to maintain their freedom.
Detectives release the images of the suspects to the state's media.
Police released this surveillance video. They say it shows the suspect, 17-year-old Debonair Simmons.
Well, Columbus police say this wanted suspect is armed and dangerous, and police are urging the public not to confront him.
If you release a photo of someone, there's a chance that you spook them. There's a chance that you make them more dangerous. But you've got to look out for the public safety.
The news report is a risk that pays off. It sparks an immediate response.
So there was a woman saw the news reports and recognized the individuals who committed the homicide.
She could identify the male with the white shirt as Mr. Nathaniel Broner.
And he's 18?
And she knew this male because it was her ex-boyfriend.
She says Simmons and Bruner took her green Pontiac.
When you've got two dangerous individuals, we know they're willing to kill. It's a matter of time before someone else gets killed.
It's been 3 days since Imran was shot. 25 miles west of Columbus, Deputy Gibson of the Madison County Sheriff's Office is on his night shift.
July 27th was a regular night. I was sort of driving around when a radio call came in for a report of a shooting at the truck stop that was within a quarter mile of my location. This is an emergency.
Imran Ashgar's assassins have been on the run for 3 days. Now, 25 miles to the west, law enforcement have yet another shooting on their hands.
And that's where I encountered William Rudd for the first time. He had been shot in the head.
William Joe Rudd is in a critical state.
Part of his face and jaw area was fairly disfigured with a good amount of blood. Really thought that Mr. Rudd's injuries would be fatal, and I started filming short video clips. Immediately recognized that I had a shooting victim who could tell me his story. Partner, tell me, how did you first meet these two guys? Okay, you saw them in the parking lot. Did you pull in here? Did you pull in here to get gas?
Yep.
Okay, and they just came up to you? Mr. Rudd was quite remarkable, and it was my thought that what I was recording was Mr. Rudd's last testimony. And that if I didn't collect this initial important information immediately, I'd be lost forever. What did they look like?
Two young black,
Heavy set, thin build, medium build?
skinny tall.
Skinny and tall. What were they wearing? Do you remember?
Shorts.
Shorts? Okay. Do you remember what color shorts?
Sorry, man.
That was the first moment that we start to develop a profile of who the potential suspects are. Do you remember which one shot you? Okay. What sort of gun was it?
I don't know. It seemed like a pistol.
A pistol? Okay. Why did they shoot you?
I don't know. They want to take my pop.
So now we have a stolen vehicle, armed suspect, so we don't know where they're going. What type of vehicle was it?
Paramedics can't wait a moment longer. Joe Rudd is rushed to hospital for emergency treatment.
He may very well die. We were about 20 to 30 minutes from the nearest trauma center. From William Rudd's description of the suspects and his vehicle, we were able to, within minutes, start broadcasting information to surrounding law enforcement agencies.
This is Deputy Gibson. It's a gray Dodge Magnum. The occupants are two teenagers, black, male.
The victim's mother, Pat Rudd, is fast asleep as the phone rings.
I got a phone call, and I thought, oh, that's Joe. Hello, Joe? I picked up the phone and heard this terrible screaming, and it was his ex-wife. They had contacted her, and she said, Joe's been shot in the head. You can't bring a child into the world and then hear news like that and not think this is the worst thing in the world that could ever happen to anybody. I don't remember ever being so upset, so devastated, felt like somebody had ripped my heart out of my body. And so I just hung up, tried to stay calm, and started packing a few clothes. I didn't know what I was going to find when I got to the hospital. I just knew that we had to get there.
As officers seal off the crime scene, Detective Siniff happens to be driving by.
On July 27th, I had been working late that day. I observed the BP station, and I seen that they had a major crime scene going on. Piqued my interest, knew it was a possible travel route for the suspects. As I drove up into this scene, basically being nosy.
Columbus PD. Was this a shooting?
Yep, 2 black male teenagers shot a guy in the face.
The description and MO matched that of Imran Ashgar's killers.
There was a very good chance at that point in time it was Mr. Bruner and Mr. Simmons. They guided me towards their lead investigator, who was going to show me video.
The gas station has no cameras outside by the pumps, so there's no footage of the shooting. But there are cameras inside the store itself. Witnesses said the shooters were inside the truck stop before the attack took place.
The employees of the truck stop have been really helpful. It already narrowed it down to a time frame of when the shooting happened.
If it's the same shooters, they're killers on a spree. And there's no knowing how many more bodies could turn up. Following a second shooting at a gas station in Ohio, detectives fear they could be dealing with killers on a spree. To find out, detectives hope the security cameras can ID the shooters. The store manager brings up the first camera and cues it to 2 a.m., the time witnesses say the men came into the store.
The video shows 2 gentlemen enter the shop. They matched William Rudd's description of his suspects.
It's obvious these are the guys who would eventually shoot and try to kill William Rudd.
But is Detective Sinneth also looking at his fugitives?
One of the suspects approaches the counter, and he's quickly joined by the second suspect. They make purchase of the counter.
They're not nervous, they're not upset, they're not worried. They're going about their business looking for snacks.
The 2 men also match the description of Imran Ashgar's killers. But the footage is too grainy to be certain.
You got anything closer?
They switch to a camera covering the food aisles.
You can see them walking through the store.
One of them appeared to be cold from the temperature.
You see him with his hands inside of his shirt.
They don't look like they're looking to hurt anyone. They just look like 2 teenagers in a gas station. But they basically are sharks circling their prey. They're looking for someone that they can prey upon. They locked onto their prey, William Rudd.
But the image still isn't clear enough to ID them. So Detective Sinneth cues up one final camera overlooking the main walkway. It's his... This time, the close-up image reveals the suspect's features.
It was definitely Mr. Bruner. I'm viewing the video from Mr. Ashgar's homicide. Everything matched. It was him.
While the image of the second male isn't as clear, Detective Sinneth is confident he can make an ID.
I was 99% sure it was Mr. Simmons because mannerisms, haircut, the way he was walking.
The footage confirms detectives' worst fears.
These guys just didn't care about anyone, didn't even care about themselves. And it makes them even more dangerous than they were before.
They're not thinking about consequences. They're thinking, I don't want to be caught by the police, so I'm gonna shoot someone, get a car, get as far away as I can.
Detectives put a bolo out on the Dodge Magnum as every officer in the state is put on red alert.
These people have no regard for human life, and that's a scary proposition. They're gonna keep shooting and stealing and getting what they need.
Back in Columbus, Joe Rudd's parents arrive at the hospital.
I was so afraid when I got to the hospital. Not knowing is the worst part. It had blown out his jaw and his eye was swollen shut, and I mean it was a terrible, terrible sight. But he was alive.
I knew that I'd been shot in the hole to my neck, and but I didn't realize how close things were. The bullet traveled within an eighth of an inch of an artery. If it would have severed that artery, I would have lied there and had stroke after stroke and would have died in the parking lot. The bullet still lodged in my neck. It was dangerous to go in and remove it because of the location of the bullet. I didn't put up a fight, and they just shot me. The gun never left my head. I knew that their intentions at that point were to kill me. And that's when I took the shot to the head. Don't know what kept me from just passing out, so.
With armed and dangerous killers on the run, detectives know the chances of another attack are high, but they have no idea where the shooters are.
At that point, the police are on the lookout for any car that matches the description. You already killed once. Killing again is not a big deal. It's the police's job to track them down and get them in custody.
It's a statewide emergency as police sweep Ohio for Simmons, Bruner, and the gray Dodge Magnum.
You keep with it. You never stop. They're now on the run, and whoever they run across is also in danger of being assaulted by them.
Within hours, an officer spots Joe's gray Dodge Magnum in Dayton, 50 miles from where he was shot.
He kept an eye on the vehicle, and he waited for uniformed officers to respond to the location.
Responding officers waste no time in approaching the vehicle.
You make sure you know what you're doing, and you make sure that you know if it comes to a deadly result that you're not the one on the losing end. The only thing you can hear is your heart pounding through your chest.
You don't approach a car like that with felons that have murdered someone very lightly. They're on a crime spree. This is not going to end well.
Officers have tracked down Imran Ashgar and Joe Rudd shooters 50 miles away in Dayton, Ohio. As they close in on their suspects, they brace themselves for a fierce firefight.
Devanir, Simmons, and Nathaniel Bruner were in the car sleeping. You know, that's what you do after you murder someone, shoot them, you just catch a nap. So they were able to be taken without any violence. When they got arrested, Mr. Bruner had the firearm that was linked to the homicide of Mr. Ashgar. It was on his lap.
Really great to know that they had finally been picked up and would not be hurting anybody else.
Simmons and Bruner are both taken back to police headquarters for questioning. Detectives know they did it, but they still don't know why.
Relaxed and not scared at all, just kind of, you know, like he was sitting waiting for, you know, a dentist appointment.
Basically,
on videotape. But now's your chance to tell your side what happened.
We know you didn't pull the trigger. We know Debonair did.
The video camera said everything.
He said, I'll just let the video speak for itself. Do you want to save yourself or not?
I don't feel like talking. I'm just not saying that no more though.
Investigators now turn their attention to Debonair Simmons.
Tell me what happened. Just tell me your words. But I know, I've seen the video, but I just want to hear it. This is your chance, man.
Whatever the video showed, that's what happened.
Are you trying to rob him, or you just were you mad at him? Did you do something you didn't like?
Man, I don't know, for real. I was just trying to get some money.
He wasn't worried about us, wasn't worried about his fate, just didn't care about anything.
The third man involved in Imran Ashgar's murder is ID'd as Daryl Durham. Detectives bring him in.
He had cut his hair off, so his hair was not the same length as it was in the video. He was nervous, he was jittery.
This is your chance to be sincere and honest about what happened.
Nah, I want to tell right now, but I'm just living to my mom said.
After a long time, we eventually broke him down to get him to tell us what happened.
They would put on their rock. But they went in the store. I put this stand outside. That's all. I put this stand outside.
Just give him heads up that the police are coming or something.
He about to put the stand out there and just watch.
He said that his only job was to be a lookout through this whole process.
But they didn't carry the robbery out as planned.
They entered the convenience store with every intention of taking the money, and instead they shoot Mr. Ashgar before they get a dime. It was just a robbery gone bad.
Debonair just shot her. Because I didn't know what the I was thinking about this. Went in there, I looked on her tire, never seen a dead body.
You can see him put his head down, basically, because he knows there's surveillance. Ron is still alive, and he goes back and tells Simmons and Brunner.
After that, I just turned around by the door, the exit door. We just heard boom.
At that point, I think they were scared, and they ran off.
Mr. Ashgar posed no threat to nobody. Why he was shot can only be that the suspects never wanted a witness.
Want to kill someone before you take something from them, either to make sure there's no witnesses or just because you don't want the hassle is a scary thought.
But the men hadn't counted on another type of witness.
I rarely have surveillance cameras that are of such quality that you can make out who the people are and have them be identified. It was our smoking gun.
Had we not had this footage, who knows if this case would be solved today.
Brunner, Simmons, and Durham are all charged and sentenced for their roles in the murder of Imran Ashgar.
Mr. Durham received a sentence of 15 years for aggravated robbery and for involuntary manslaughter. Mr. Brunner is also found guilty for his involvement in the murder of Mr. Ashgar and the shooting of Mr. Rudd. He is sentenced to 78 years to life. Mr. Simmons was found guilty of the murder of Mr. Ashgar and for shooting Mr. Rudd. He was sentenced to life plus 45 years.
You know, I deal with the pain and stuff, and that's enough memory to worry about. If I keep the hatred, it's just going to make things worse. So I don't really have a lot of hate against him.
He's very, very lucky to be alive. But like I've always said, he had angels watching over him that day.
Christine Ashgar is still coming to terms with her husband Imran's death.
I miss everything about Imran. Our lives, our cuddles. If I have a bad day, I can talk to him. he would listen. Now that he's not here, I don't have no one to comfort and to go to like I used to him.